I don't think in arm wrestling it's as important as
like
people think.
We were talking about.
So if I get to 350, I'd be a sub 10% body fat. Well, that would be bigger than everybody but Levon.
Right.
After Brian Shaw's super match loss several weeks ago against Leonidas, the question is what's next for him? Is he going to be competing soon, or what's the next stage of training for him? And it looks like he's going to be cutting weight. In this podcast with Luke Polsher, he's talking about how he's going to be going on a cut, going to try and get around 350 pounds. He says he'll be around 10% body fat or so at that body weight, which is absolutely insane to be considered in a lean condition at 350 pounds. But that kind of slightly contradicts his last post after the match with Leonidas, because he said, I'll be back bigger, better, and stronger for his next super match. But in this podcast, they're talking about how the weight isn't necessarily the biggest indicator of strength in arm wrestling, as opposed to something like strongman, where if you need to pull a truck or something, the weight kind of moves weight, so it's a lot more important. But they're talking about weight and the importance in arm wrestling and technique and all that, and they mentioned Levon, so this is kind of an interesting clip to look at here.
So we're doing that, but it's it's one of these things where you get comments right from people, again going back to here's their opinion, and it's you get these guys that are like, well, okay, well, there goes arm wrestling completely if you're going to cut down and get leaner. It's like, well, I didn't say I'm trying to drop muscle, right? I said I'm trying to drop body fat, which is, just weight.
So he's rejecting the claim that just because he's cutting weight, he's done with arm wrestling?
Essentially, right? So I'm going to...
Well, if you cut down to, say, 15.
Yeah.
Or 14.
Yeah.
That's still going to put you probably at 340 to 350. That's still an awful lot of mass.
So 340 to 350 at about 15% body weight. That's a lot of mass for sure. I mean, it's not going to be really anyone heavier than that other than Levon either way. So it seems Brian is so used to equating strength with his weight, considering the strongman background and how, in the strength era of strongman, especially like 2017, these guys were like 400 plus pounds, trying to be as statically strong as possible. But in arm wrestling, that is not the best indicator of strength. Always, of course, having more weight, as long as it's quality weight, can be useful, of course, but it's not the only indicator of ability in arm wrestling.
And we'll see where it goes. So it's like the lean, what I just tested lean was like somewhere between 313 and 318 lean. So if I get to 350, I'd be a sub 10% body fat.
Yeah, that's
sub 10% body fat at 350.
Still weighing 350 pounds.
Yeah, so it's and that's bigger than. Well, that would be bigger than everybody but Levon.
Right.
Right. So it'd be Vitaly's 330, Devin's a little bit under 300, Hermes is
280.
So it's like you kind of go through the list of these top guys, and there's maybe Alex Credecha would be another big guy. Philip Larson is another guy, that's bigger. But it's kind of one of these things where it's like, I don't think it's as important, especially as I've arm wrestled different guys that are not as big, but they're
such as Leonidas. He's realizing that just the strict weight isn't the biggest indicator, of course.
Brutally strong, and their technique is on point.
And Leonidas had the experience advantage big time. So I think the best thing for Brian personally is just to get out and do a lot of tournaments and grip a lot of different arms with different styles and continue to, hone his own skills, not getting overwhelmed by listening to everybody, but just figuring out what's working for him and just get the experience, take the losses along the way and go from there.
Right. Yep. So I think, you're going to get these comments, but I don't think it's that as important,
well,
so it's an interesting thing as well, though.
It'll be interesting for you because, you're an anomaly anyway. First, you're huge.
Yeah.
But two, you're still like very athletic. Like you move well.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, in my opinion, not that holds any weight in strongman, but that you did so well is you moved so well being huge.
Yep.
Where a lot of guys, when they're that big, they don't move as well.
Sure, totally.
So anything where there's a timed event, you almost always had an advantage out of the gate because you could move.
Yep.
If you lean up, obviously you're going to stay strong. That's not going to go away.
Yep.
But if you move better and easier,
Yep.
because
He'll probably, yeah, exactly. He'll probably move even better and more fluid on the table. Like he mentioned after the match with Leonidas, one of the problems was that he felt like uncomfortable with this setup when trying to set up the press with getting his shoulder behind it. So I think stuff like that could potentially be improved, not only with experience and ready goes with a tournament format, but if he's at a lighter body weight or just feels more fluid on the table, that could be helpful.
power, right, or force
Sure.
is power and speed.
Yep.
Well, if you move better than you did before, it has to increase your overall force.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's what wins an arm wrestling match.
Sure.
Static strength wins very, very few arm wrestling matches.
Sure.
And it might not win any at the elite level.
Yeah.
It's dynamic strength.
Sure.
That's what wins arm wrestling.
Dynamic strength and the coordination to feel the pressures and know which angle to hit properly, which is something which is going to come, again, just with the experience of taking the losses and gripping different arms for Brian. So good to hear that he's not quitting. Definitely good to hear, even if he's, cutting. I don't think that's going to affect too much. I mean, he's still going to be, 350 pounds, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the ability to essentially arm wrestle, pull, move in multiple dimensions, not one.
Sure. Which is tough. It's
really hard,
Yeah,
especially when your whole strong career has been linear.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
It's just different. Anyway, I find it fascinating because people's opinions, and I don't know why, I guess I do know why. It's always a number on the scale, right? So it's like people get caught up in, this number, that number, who's heavier, but it's
So you can see Brian acknowledging that kind of, I don't want to say bigorexia, but that obsession over the scale of strength, where you want the number to go up on the scale because you think that's going to correlate to your strength. Where in gym lifts, of course, that's going to be super relevant. Like if you're trying to bench press more, you having a heavier body weight is going to be directly affecting your strength. But in something like arm wrestling, not necessarily. So it's just understanding that it's a different sport.
I don't think in arm wrestling it's as important as
Like
people think.
we were talking before. If you give up 10% strength,
Mm-hmm.
well, on a 1,000-pound deadlift, that could be the difference between first place and fifth place.
And strongman for sure.
In deadlift, right? So, but if you give up 10% of your cupping ability, what is that? Maybe 2 or 3 pounds?
It's not a lot. Yeah.
It's less for a lot of people.
Yep.
So I don't. Yes, I still believe that at a point mass moves mass.
Sure.
That body weight's beneficial, but I don't think it has the same direct correlated impact in our sport than it does other strength sports.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
To say it has no impact would just be naive.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has the same percentage impact that it does in a lot of power sports.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's also, your technique needs to be there, and also the power to keep your arm from opening.
Right.
Yeah, the ability to stay tight and connected, which sometimes you can't be as fluid if you're heavier than when you're lighter. You're just going to feel more connected and everything. So I'll cut the clip there. Overall, very interesting topic of conversation for Brian Shaw moving forward, as he seems to be cutting weight with the goal of getting to around 350 pounds. Apparently 10% body fat, which is going to be super impressive. I'm eager to see Brian continue his journey in arm wrestling. Let me know what you guys thought about that. I'll put the link in the description so you can watch that full podcast. But also use code TOM. We're 4 weeks away from EVW 24. Make sure to buy the pay-per-view, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.